Hi, I wanted to record another video of Visby. So I've added a few more things. And you can see that there are dynamic shadows of the characters. And the shadow is animated with the character. So as you're moving, changing direction, the character shadow changes. And the shadow also has depth testing, so it's rendered behind things, just like the sprites. I'm not rendering shadows on top of the dynamic characters though. The effect wouldn't be as nice as what I want. And I'm also not blending the shadow with the background. I'm probably going to do that later. Because they are two textures basically, and I can easily just blend them. The dynamic shadow texture basically looks like this. It's just the sprites moving around and rendered with white. And as I showed before, the static shadow texture is also just white and black, so I could easily blend them. And there's also another thing that's going on here. You see the guard is moving on a path. So I don't have real AI really, or real pathfinding, but I do have a way that you can make characters follow paths. Basically, my animation system can handle, kind of handle any type of animation, but it was created specifically for skeletal animation. However, I can load, I basically add a little bit of code to find a node in an FBX file, and that node, FBXs can have animation on anything, basically. So what I did is I find a node, I extract the animation and create basically one of my animation classes based on that. And then I extract from that animation the path that this guy is supposed to follow. So it's basically, 560 frames points that is following. It's a kind of a trick. I can get some smooth looking movement for this character without much work. And it kind of fits the game that I want to make, because I want to have, I haven't really talked much about it, but I kind of want to make a scene, and there are characters doing things in the scene, and you're supposed to try and figure out how to solve the problem that you have, solve your goal. And so this guard is a different kind of guard. He's the captain. He's a little bit short. That's intentional, and he's holding his sword up a little bit because it's too long and it would touch the ground if he were just letting it fall down. The shadows as well, I want to show this. I want to show how it's implemented, but I also want to show that it does have awareness of the height of the character over the ground. Oh, that's probably the wrong. I want to do the rat. Pick up the rat and send him off here. See them jump up. The shadow is also jumping up. So I want to see how I'm doing that. I'll show how I'm doing that. So first of all, the fragment shader, I've done one small change. Added a uniform for the shininess. So basically I'm reusing my texture shader here for the shadow rendering as well. And that is because I'm using the diffuse, I'm using the depth, I'm basically using everything here to render this, because the sprites needs the diffuse to determine where the pixels are. And we need the depth as well, because that's how you determine if they're in the foreground or background. So the one line that I added for this is basically here. So if the ambient shininess is 1, I will basically use a full bright value. And if it's 0, it will just be the fragment color that I already calculated, the shaded version. And I also wanted to show the other thing, how the shadow is actually generated. So if you look at it, it's kind of at an angle. And these sprites don't have any depth, so how I'm doing that. And it's also, this is not a 3D scene, it's just flat sprites on top of a flat background. So this is how I generate the 2D shadow. Probably best to start here at the bottom. So I'm first flipping the transform so it's upside down, and basically it's just on the Y. And then I'm rotating that because I want to have the rotation of the character. And then I'm sharing the transform. That's basically making it diagonal, so angled. And then I'm translating that towards space. So flipping transform is really just you're flipping the axis that you want to flip. So X, Y, and Z. So I'm flipping Y. And then I have a sharing transform. Sharing transform is a way that you can basically kind of skew the matrix here. And the way I'm doing it, I have this normalized vector. Like I have a certain skew that I want to do. So if you have 0 here, it would basically be straight if we just go straight down. And as I do it, if I do negative, it's just going to lean more to the right. If it was positive here, it would go more to the left. And I also here have split up the transform in rotation and translation separately. And that's pretty much it. I set that, I draw it, and then I set it back to my default. You can also see a sneak peek on how I do shader parameters. I basically store the parameters on the materials. And I have materials I have them in like a base, the mesh, and then on these components. So I can kind of override and change them as I go. And that's basically how I do everything. I need to have it. Because there's so many instances that I have. Well, now they all flock to the bird, which is a funny little side effect. Which isn't super interesting. So I'll pick up the bird, if I can pick it up there. And now they should all go back to what they were doing. Oh no, I picked up the rat. I have to go and pick up the bird again. Anyways, that's it. I hope it's interesting. Thanks. Bye.